You know, we were excited at the start of our virtual proving grounds to introduce 6 new products here right in the fall of 2017. And so we've had a tremendous response from the videos. I'm humbled about how many watch. You know, we started it, we were saying, will we have a lot more views than what we were able to get farmers? Because we were always so tickled to have as many as 2,000 farmers come to our home farm. And to be able to work with them one-on-one in the field was a lot of fun. But at the same time, we are so fortunate we can see we're going to reach worldwide on the type of agronomy questions that we have. So let's just jump in. We're going to talk about Bandit first. Remember now, Bandit is going on the planter as a nitrogen attachment. We're pretty passionate that nitrogen needs to be on both sides of the seed, and so it goes in the closing system for a reason. We believe that that's the place we'd like to see it, and I really like the testing that we've done even since the Farm Progress Show in the beginning of September is showing some really promising results for us. So let's just jump right into the questions. Question number 1 that come in from a grower was, what type of system do you use to distribute the product to your new nitrogen attachment? Well, we can use any type of system that's out in the marketplace. For ourselves, we're just using an inch hose as a manifold and coming off of there then with the orifice, and we're using a hydraulic high-pro hydraulic pump that's coming off of our 360 tanks in the front of the tractor that are then bringing it back to that manifold, and then from there it's being dispensed down through almost like a red ball type system. But at the same time, whatever system you've used in the past will equally work well. In this case, you're going to be a plug and play right in the back of the 3/8 push connectors, and from there it's all about placement in the ground. So a question is, what is the impact of dribbling fertilizer directly on top as opposed to placing it 3/4 inch below? Well, you know, I'm not opposed. If you said, you know, I've tried on top and that's worked well, I would definitely want to chain covering it. I am not at all be excited about that early in the season, having it totally on top. I like the positioning at 3/4 under because we're going to use nature to use that water to dilute. So once that's in a band on each side of the seed, we know where the crown roots 1, 2, and 3 are going to be. There's no mystery there. So when we talk about a crown, and so the mesocado, of course you got your seed with your seedling roots, but when these start to come out, they always do the same thing. Doesn't matter where you live. Whether you're watching this, you're from Germany or Brazil or France, in America, any of the states, we know where it's going to be. And when we put it at 3/4 and then we start to let water dilute it, we know that we're going to instantly get in the sweet spot with that. And so I like it to be 3/4 under. I like it being over that 2.5 to 3 inches from the seed far as sideways, and because that's going to put us right where we know with the good Lord how to design corn roots. And so they're going to be right where we want them to be where we can feed on them. What yield benefit is placing fertilizer on both sides compared to standard on one side application? I think it comes down to common sense. How much are you and I wanting to put on? So in years past, we put on 60 units of N. We've always split it. So we've had a 30 seed and 30. This year I'm going to move it up. We're going to go to 40 on each side of that seed. And so when we're talking that, once we get up to 80 pounds with the planter, I like the fact we're going to have it on both sides. Question that follows it up, have we seen a lot of root burning with nitrogen put on of a closing wheel system? We have not. We're looking for it. We'll continue to watch it. Of course, it's going to matter some. Are you in pure blow sand, or are you more in some clay and you know, some loam soil? So it depends on kind of where you're at. The question about using drag chains that cover the nitrogen band. Yes, we are. I think chains are extremely critical. I like leveling off the little crown that comes with the closing wheels, whether that's on the spike or the cast or the rubber. I like leveling that off anyway, but I really like redistributing some fine. Chain lets you and I get a little bit sloppy at times with our down pressure. And if we somehow left a crack, if you and I left it exposed where light can get in, the number one thing that's going to hurt you when you and I are planting corn, if we leave any kind of a crack, and so how we have the true V, well, once you and I close it, if for some reason we close it on the top, and then it kind of has a little bit of a bubble, and then it's close to the seeds here, if this opens up and we get sunlight into here, when that spike's growing, it'll leaf out. The minute a spike sees light, it leafs out. You and I cannot push a rope through the ground. And this plant's going to now turn, and he's going to be a misfire, and you and I are going to struggle. All the chain does is it takes away any kind of risk that you and I left a small slit where sunlight can get in. So those are things that we pay attention to. You know, Bandit, the hope is, as we're heavy in the test, it'll be available here in the spring of 18, and we've yet to price it. So, but it's going to be a price where you and I are going to be really excited. What different closing wheels is a question that was sent in that we've tested with? Well, we've tested with all of them. Cast iron and spike and rubber, we're working with them all. Bandit works well with all those different styles, and so I'm excited to what kind of response we're going to see there. And then the question is, how do we keep the flow consistent on both sides? Well, there's no magic to it. We're going to have a 3/16 of an inch line. That itself is its own orifice plate. So there's times if you're on a steep hillside, you might be 60-40. As we've looked at it and tested it, it's surprising how close it is to, 45-55 or 50-50. I think you're going to be satisfied the way it looks. So those are things that are out there on the Bandit that we've received to date. How about, though, let's stay on the planter. Let's talk about our new starter attachment that we call Dash, the Dash valve, where we now start to give you total control. No matter what attachment you own, whether we're going to be right over the open seed trench, and we'll either be going on the seed or off the seed or off to the side if you're in a Gen 2 or a Huck Step or one of those type attachments. And so those are things that are out there. So let's take a look at some of these different questions on the Dash itself. First question is just to our operation, I guess, personally, says, how much starter are you applying and how does manure play into your system? Well, our dairy, we're only covering about 200 to 285 acres a year with manure, so it's not enough that it would play in. So we're using starter for, it's all about early. It's when that young plant gets out of the gate right. It's all about getting phosphates into that plant in a timely fashion, realizing that cold soils, that P or that phosphate's tied up in that soil profile, and that little baby corn root's not going to be able to feed readily on that. So we're using starter. In our own case, we're using 3 to 3.5 gallon of a 1034 on the seed. Depends on the crop. If we're in seed corn, we're using over 9 gallon. We're off to the side. So each of our situations, our different crops, whether it's seed, commercial corn, or pumpkins, is all kind of matters where we're at on which planter that we're on. But I think you and I would come to the same conclusion that starter flat out pays. And so we have tested it for years and years. And that 11 to 12 bushel and up as high as 25 bushel that we've seen is real. So that's something you and I really need to jump on. When will the 360 Dash be available is the next question. It'll be in, we're going to have beta in the spring of 18. And then if all goes well, I think by the spring of 19, we'll be full force. So the question is on insecticides, especially liquid insecticide. I think when we talk about insecticides, not many of us would argue that a T-banded granular is pretty hard to beat. But the fact and reality means we realize there's products from A to Z, and for our bigger planters, it's liquid. We're using liquid force. And so the beauty of Dash is it gives you, whether it's whatever product it is, Capture or Force or some maybe biologicals, it gives you the sweet spot. Do you want it on the seed or do you want it in between? You and your agronomist will know exactly where is it that you can make the greatest return as you invest heavily into these additional costs. And so that's the beauty of Dash, is you can go at fingertips. You can turn it and say, I want it 3 to 4 inches in between the seed, or I want it right beside the seed. And so those are things that we can do. Next question, I'll just combine two questions here. One's on speed and one's on rate. Well, on rate, it's between 0 to 15 gallon, is easily obtained up to 10 mile an hour. And so anything in between. So if you told me you're planting at 7 mile an hour, Dash is going to be able to find that seed and then decide at your decision, do you want to be next to the seed or right on top of the seed? So the gallonage and the speed has not been a big problem. The last question is on Dash is on soybeans. Would it be able to handle? Obviously, Dash has got a very, very quick response, but at the same time, if you and I are going to talk about 1.5 to 2 inches between soybeans, it's probably going to be something where you decide, I want to be for 2 inches on and then 2 inches off, even at the high speeds. I don't see us being able to hit a quarter on a soybeans at 10 mile an hour. So that would be pushing this technology beyond its capability now, but stay tuned. That's something that will definitely be out there. You know, as we talk about these planter liquid attachments, it begs the question, how do you and I, where do we carry it? How do we keep these planters running? And so let's shift gears a little bit and go into some of the new products. And let's talk about Sprint first, where we introduced the Gator that had the ability, just like the grain cart that we've been using for the last several days, keeping our combines running. I can't imagine harvesting corn where we would drive out to the ditch bank or the headlands and dump on a truck. Not that there's anything wrong about it. I think when Cindy and I first started farming, we celebrated as a young farm couple every load. You know, we had a tandem and a grain pup. We'd haul out 950 bushel every time. And I remember we'd look at each other and we'd just go, yeah. And we've come to a different point in life. And now we've got multiple combines running. And it's about, do we get the acres done we need to get done each day to stay timely in harvest? Same thing happens on a corn planter. You and I are buying larger and larger planters. We talk about investing a lot of dollars in high-speed technology. Then it begs the question, why wouldn't you and I, if we have a 60-foot planter, instead of thinking about do we need to go 90 or do we need to get 2, why don't we talk about keeping that planter running at peak efficiency? And that's all what Sprint's about. Its simple fact is we come in on the go and we let you engage. You move a low amount of fertilizer, 300 gallons, keep that planter and tractor light, but keep yourself on the move at all times. So the first question is going to be, if I have a high-speed planter, can I run Sprint at 10 mile an hour? Absolutely. I've run them up to 12 mile an hour, and this Gator will run 20 without any trouble with a load, 18 to 20, so you can engage and you can keep at it. So those are things. Question is, how do we keep dirt out of the connector on the 360 Sprint? Things that we're working on, but the dirt has been really to a minimum. It's not something we've had a lot of problems with. When will it be available? Well, we're going to try to be in a beta next year. My goal is to have 10 to 12 of them running in the surrounding states. We don't have a cost yet at this time, but it's something that we're going to take a close look at. I'm excited to get out in the marketplace because I really believe my heart of hearts is going to keep you guys in a really good spot per acres per day. Is the Gator, a farmer sending a question, is the Gator being pulled or is it driving itself? We are not pulling it. We've engaged, the magnets are hooking, but you're driving the Gator itself. And that's things that, we're not going to put a draft back on either wing of that planter. So that's things that would be there. Question is, what about multiple products? Is it only going to carry 32%? Well, obviously, whatever you put in the tank, we can come up into the funnel and we can engage and find that tank. So if you wanted to do starter and nitrogen, that's something we could definitely do. But in that case, we'd have a funnel on the left side of the planter for starter. We'd have a funnel on the right side for 32%. And so that's going to keep that guy pretty busy in the Gator. He's going to be bringing both. The reality is the nitrogen, whether it's 28 or 32%, is by far the one you're going to be bringing the most. For our case, we're using 23 gallons to the acre. So that's going to be our feature. Our liquid tank in the center of our planters carries 400 gallon. And so that's for starter. So it's going to be pretty rare. Some fields he'll go and bring one time. Other fields we'll have enough starter loaded. He can do the whole field. So Sprint's all about saying, how do you and I keep ourselves in efficiency and really save time? And on those really good planting days, how do we maximize performance? As we're talking about efficiency with the Sprint system and getting the right amount of acres per day out of our big planters, it begs the question, where are you and I going to be pumping it into? Is it going to be a tank on the planter, or where would we carry it on the tractors? And as we looked at bringing more products of liquid to the planter, because I believe passionately the planter is where nitrogen and starter should be, but where do we carry it? And so on wheel tractors especially. So we're going to start with the 8000 series Deere tractors. We have a 700 gallon tank capacity, 350 on each side, but very streamlined hosing system underneath. It comes right back into a high pro hydraulic pump on the back of the tractor. But it's all about balance, and it's all about being able to see over the top and see out and get to understand where it is. And so the first question is, what tractor model is it going to fit? It's going to be Deere 8000 through the whole 8000 series. Next up will be the 7000 tractors, a little bit smaller tractors itself. And one of the farmers sent in a question and said, is there going to be a blind spot over the axles? There's enough dimension in between the hood and the tanks themselves, so if you're in a row crop situation, you should not have any problem. You know, without auto steer, you'll be able to see that row. Like when I was younger, we used to cultivate, there's enough clearance in there you can see. No question, there's going to be a little bit of a blind spot right on the outside of the front dual. You know, you're going to have to find your way there just a bit, but the rest of the visibility is top of the line. And so those are things that are there. A question was sent in about, will 360 tanks be available for large four-wheel drives and track tractors? Not right at this time. We're not moving there. Like I said, the next model would be the 7000 Deere and then on to Case. So those are the type of things if you wanted to do, you know, application even of a smaller tractor. How quickly can the 360 tanks be removed and put back on? You know, there's two of you. It's going to be at least an hour for you to get on the main brackets, and then, you know, till you slide it on. Pretty easy to fit in. There's a lot of those pieces that are all uniform and together. The heavy bar across the front weight bracket goes on pretty readily, and after that it falls into place pretty quickly. So those are things that are there. Let's switch gears a little bit and go to the sprayers themselves. You know, we talk about wide drop, the success we've had of that, and undercover. And there's been thousands of systems sold. And there was always a question from growers saying, Greg, we're working in taller vegetation, either shoulder height or head height, and our existing sonar sensors that we already own in the boom are not finding the ground very well through tall vegetation. And the concern was, where do we know where the bottom of the wide drop is running? The target is, what, 12 to 14 inches below the bottom of wide drop to the ground itself. So we went after and said, look, it should be pretty easy if we put a ground control rod on and then just run and utilize what you already own. We realize you already have a boom height control, probably on the left, the center, and the right side of that boom. Let's just do a plug and play. So the message that goes through the CAN system into your monitor is exactly the same. And so you'll hear it all day long. As we design products at 360, we want to utilize what you already own. So the system you already own, we'll unplug the cabling there for your sonar sensor, and we'll plug our lead coming right up the riser, right in, off the ground control rod. We'll have 3 of those on your sprayer, left, center, and right. And now all of a sudden, you're going to be able to maintain that 12 inches as you go through. So one of the questions that come in, it says, first of all, when will it be available? Our full intent is to have this available this coming spring, in the spring of 18. And we hope to be announcing availability and the cost of that coming right up at the end of the year here, and get you timed even at the end of the season from tax different regions you want to get them purchased. We hope to be ready and going. We're testing heavily, and I like what I see. One of the questions is that plastic ground rod that's giving us the sensing over the top. If the sprayer boom went rapidly backwards, we turn too short, what's going to happen to it? It's got the ability to flip up and out of the way and turn from side to side. So that's the beauty of that design. Pretty robust, pretty hard for you and I to tear that up. And then the question is, we're in really rough ground. So let's say if a front mounted boom on a Hagee or Miller, is it going to react in time? Well, we have a 12 to 14 inch grace period. But the beauty of our system is we have a double magnet there on the riser itself as a breakaway. So if you and I come right into a really abrupt ground change, a terrace or something like that, and the ground rod can't keep up, even though the boom's starting to come up, if it breaks away, immediately the booms are going to go much faster up. We got sensors on the magnets, and immediately the booms are going to go to the maximum raise, and that's going to be something that's really going to help you. As we talk about wide drop and undercover and tall vegetation, how about steering itself? Whether we're in 30-inch corn or 20-inch corn for tram, an all-day project, it gets pretty tiring by 5:30, 6 o'clock at night if you and I have been at it all day. So steering was something we said, let's jump in. And you're obviously thinking, well, isn't there some steering opportunities out there, either with Deere or Reichardt? And yes, there is. But cost, we said, can we design it and utilize what you already have? Can we come up with technology that works just as well for a lot less? And I'm excited to introduce the Steering 360 system to you, because we go where the globe is and we unplug there, and we plug in our lead, and then it goes right from that into your steering box. Your John Deere system, or whatever you would have, doesn't know the difference. Now we're using the tactile wands in the bottom to tell us exactly where we're at. Got to go 4 inches to the left or to the right. We're going to have that in front of the front tire on the right-hand side, and we're going to keep that sprayer right down the center line. And it's going to be a lot less costly because we're utilizing what you already own. So sprayer models it'll be on the Deere, of course, on the Hagee and the Rogator. Those will be the places we're starting. So the wands themselves need enough vegetation height and strength that they can bounce off the road to know where they're centered. Question is will it be able to be used in 30-inch soybeans with 360 undercover? Depends on the height. Those wands are going to need some stability in that plant stalk so that it contain and maintain there. The question is on 20 and 22-inch rows should not be a problem. So steering like boom height, our goal is to have that available right after the first of the year for the upcoming season. Our wands are really not, the question is it any different than the Deere wand? It's really not. It's all the same concept. We're just going after it in a lot different way by saying we're intercepting that single coming from your globe, the steering box, and we're just making sure that we have it corrected in there. So 360 is going to be added in. Steering system will be added into your system. And so we're excited to introduce that to you this coming spring. And so we'll look forward to working with you on that. And please keep those questions coming in on those new products. Well, additional question was on there, would it work with tractors of side dress? Absolutely. We've tested it with the tractor. So in other words, you have a taller side dress bar with wide drop, you're going to be able to come in V7, V8 corn. Yeah, you might have some corn pushing the axle a little bit, but the wands will work just the same on the Deere tractor as it does on the Deere sprayer. So appreciate all your response very, very much. You know, as we talk about these new products, I realize as you watch the videos, we didn't answer every question that you might have. So keep those questions coming in. We'll go ahead and as we continue to play the videos and they're viewed, as the questions come in, we'll do this again. We're pretty passionate that we get the questions answered that you need. And by no means, don't hesitate to go to your dealer and ask them likewise. But we look forward to working with you with one of these new 6 products.